So it's regular season mode, which means, so-and-so's running with it. We can't really do that anymore.
I know that there's a lot of people that were saluting Sam Warren of the Houston Chronicle for giving you play-by-play of what's happening.
Yeah.
You will not see that today, unfortunately. So with that being the case, let's kind of start doing our training camp wrap-up looks, and maybe we look at this through this lens. Who has changed their opinion or your opinion of them the most thus far through training camp? 713-572-4610.
Yeah, there's a few. From the start of training camp, what I thought and this person or this thing changed my mind the most. Top of the list, I don't even think it's close. You might, Xavier Hutchinson. Xavier Hutchinson, when we started camp, I thought, hell, maybe he's on the bubble. Maybe this guy's not going to be a Texan this year. At best, I thought of him as a depth piece, does a little special teams. They brought in Christian Kirk, drafted 2 receivers. I was like, Xavier Hutchinson, ooh, boy, he's a starter, dude.
Not only that, and this is probably a little unfair to characterize it as this, so I'll try and be delicate with the way that I put this. We were kind of looking at him as almost standing next to John Mechie, depth-wise, going into training camp. Now, that might have been more about us and less about them because the Texans have been very clear about loving Xavier Hutchinson, what he brings to this team. But still, we probably looked at that as a little bit closer to that range. I definitely did not anticipate being in this place where I go, he's kind of a starter.
And versatile. They're using him in different ways. So Xavier Hutchinson, to me, is at the top of the list. No question about it.
He's definitely one of those.
Another one to me, and I'm wondering what you were thinking at the beginning versus today. Titus Howard is a guard.
Yeah, and that one feels more circumstantial than anything because I think the Cam Robinson injury happens, and then also Blake Fisher maybe not standing up in the way that we wanted to see. It seems like there might still be some openings for him to maybe do some level of convincing. I don't know. Especially after he had Blake Fisher, that is, had a good game versus the Panthers. But, yeah, we were kind of thinking of, and it seemed very clear that Titus Howard was going to be a guard. Again, we had all the thankful kind of tones from the coaches about, hey, we appreciate him sliding in and being willing to do whatever. And lo and behold, he's back out here at right tackle, which I actually don't even know how I feel about this because last year Titus Howard at right tackle was one of the things that we looked at that we were like, damn, this is not sufficient. Now, of course, the upcycle in the offensive line has been less about the talent, I think, and more about the schematics and the actual fundamentals and the properties of what this offense is going to bring to an offensive line and techniques. So maybe that is ultimately what changes the dynamics here.
Yeah.
But I think if you took a poll of the Texans fan base, you would find that Titus Howard playing at tackle is ultimately something that people feel good about in a way that they almost 180 degrees felt differently about probably 9 months ago.
Yeah, no question about it. Now, not all of them are necessarily a good thing, what you thought at the start of camp versus what you think today.
Okay, where are you going here?
Well, because at the start of the camp, I was like, I'm quite sure I said these words. Christian Harris is going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He's going to step in. I think they have confidence in him. He'll be back, etc. And now,
that's changed for you?
A little bit. I'm not sure.
I think he's in that same place. And now, also, part of what does this is, I don't know if you saw this, the Texans put out yet another depth chart. And, of course, take it with a grain of salt. D'Amico says that he didn't put this out, but I think that is like a slight, I don't want to call it a lie, but it's a slight misgiving on what happens here. I do think that there is some level of communication, but I don't think that it's a full accounting of how they feel about everything. However, with all that being said, Christian Harris still slides in as that second team linebacker where EJ Speed is behind him. And now what makes it interesting is Jake Hansen is on that second line next to Christian Harris. So I don't know what that means about Jake Hansen or whatever. But ultimately, Christian Harris, he's not been able to get out there a ton.
But that's why.
But I still think that, again, he is the type of guy that we know what his caliber is. And when he is out there, they will believe and they will trust in him. And he just recently has gotten back out.
And we were talking Pro Bowl with him. And now, that's where he is. Here's another one.
Oh, so your thought change is not that he would be on the team and be factoring in. You thought that he would usurp Henry To'oTo'o.
Yeah, be what he was in the postseason that 1 year. And here's another one. At the beginning of the camp, I'm like, man, this team is really deep at safety. Really deep at safety. Well, Jimmy Ward happened.
Yeah.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson happened. And now, you're sort of wondering, who's who on the depth chart at the safety position.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. We've seen Jalen Petrie get some reps yesterday at safety, just kind of, I imagine, to give some additional coverage.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that shifts for me. It really is, and it's the Jimmy Ward thing that shifts it.
Sure,
It seems like C.J. Gardner-Johnson is already working his way back, but I think part of what, not to put words in your mouth, but if I'm assuming what you're kind of thinking correctly, the idea of even if he's willing to go or ready to go week one, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, there's still the thought in your mind, what happens if a re-aggravation happens, right? Playing the car crash sport on whatever happens with that knee.
Absolutely.
That is fair. I think I have found over the last week a little bit more respect for MJ Stewart than I had previously had, because it feels like they trust him deeply to do all the things. And by and large, he's kind of stood up in the way that you wanted. But yeah, I very much felt stronger about when you had Jimmy Ward and you felt comfortable with him playing all of those roles. Yeah. Also, even just being the backup for Jalen Petrie as well in that nickel role, because now that is Miles Bryant that's probably the next man up. That feels it feels like a half step down from Jimmy Ward. So I do think that that's fair, but it probably all hinges on Jimmy Ward. I don't know that I've swung a ton, but I think that I have definitely. I'm with you. I've moved a little bit here.
All right, and tell me what you think about these last couple that I have from the start of training camp to today. And this isn't necessarily maybe it's good and bad, maybe it's neither. I thought Jaden Higgins is going to step right in and be that guy at the top of the depth chart, and Jalen Noel might take a bit of time to develop. It's kind of role reversal.
To some degree, but I think that, funny enough, with that supposed role reversal, they kind of end up in the same place for me, which is obviously you're going to lean on Nico Collins. He's the best wide receiver on your team. He's one of the best in the league. Yeah. You're going to lean on Christian Kirk, veteran guy that knows exactly how to get to his spots and seems like he fits very well with what you're doing offensively. And then it seems like they're going to depend and trust in Xavier Hutchinson, and then we're going to filter in some Higgins and some Noel. So it kind of feels like they're in that same place.
But I think a little more confidence in Noel.
I found a little bit more confidence in Higgins as well, seeing like some of the routes that he's run. And also, to be fair, he has not been running as much with the ones as Hutchinson, but he's been making plays with the twos. Like him and Davis Mills seem to have a really good connection that I'm sure him and C.J. Stroud could facilitate in that same way. I just don't think that he's going to be the immediate. He is on the other side of Nico Collins and having the huge impact in the way that I think some people had. And to be fair, I think there was a number of people that were like, hey, let's probably be a little slow in walking into the idea that he's just going to be Nico Collins number 2 on the other side because he's 6'4" as well.
Right. And here's the last one, and this is more me. Maybe you and Figgy, might have fallen into this category as well. But at the start of training camp, I've said it on this show, I thought Cade Stover would develop into more of a complete tight end, would fit much better in this style of offense, could maybe be an every down tight end. I don't see it yet.
And that's fair, but I think that there was people with this team, right, when you heard them talk, you heard John Harris, who is a very valuable football mind to consider, really rave about that possibility. So I understand where that was coming from. But, yeah, it seems like there's still room to develop that. I think that that's still a possibility as the season continues. But there's a lot that's happening when it comes to building in this offense and establishing what they want to do headed into the season. And, it probably wasn't fair to be like, hey, Cade Stover, with your offseason and then with this training camp, we expect you to kind of like have taken your pass-catching thing, dynamic from one place all the way to a whole different level.
Is there anything that you, at the beginning camp, you thought, okay, this is what I'm thinking? I'm sure you agree. I mean, you agreed with me on some of these, like especially Xavier Hutchinson, but things have changed. And by the way, kudos to them. They came in talking about competition. Everybody's fighting for a job every day. You stack the days, all that good stuff. And lo and behold, there has been some competition that has made us look differently at this team.
And that was where I was going to go. Like, offensive line as a whole, I was still holding out belief in the idea that we're just going to have, all 5 fingers in a glove. We're going to have all these guys pulling the same direction. We're going to find a level early on. It seems like there's a possibility that they have that. Now, of course, again, I've talked about the fact that that's the Panthers' defensive line. They weren't good at stopping the run, but the physicality, the nastiness, the things that they've professed that they wanted on the offensive line has shown up in the offensive line early. So that's good. But the results continuing to show, especially against higher level teams, I think remains to be seen, or at least remains to be proven per se. I think tomorrow will go a good way in kind of giving us a little bit of an idea of that. So, that's the part that I'm interested in continuing. But I honestly did not think that they would have this level of smoothness, especially even during camp. There was a number of weeks where we're looking at this offensive line saying, I don't think they're going to hit the mark. And it feels like they're getting a lot closer to hitting the mark that they wanted when they started making these moves early on in the offseason.
And tomorrow is a big, big day. To me, the last big day before we go to L.A.
Yeah. Training camp really is starting to wind down. There's been some big opinion shifts over training camp. So we'll continue to kind of talk about that. And as you mentioned, we could have some even bigger shifts depending on how your Texans show up against the Lions.